I love that song.
What movie was this from?
It was. I think it was used in several movies. Two Queers in a Truck. In case you were joining our conversation.
Sorry.
we started 10 minutes ago, so you missed 10 minutes of the show. Just kidding. This is the very beginning. Hi, I'm Jenny-Jaymes. But it was used again in a Keanu Reeves movie about football, The Replacements.
But was it really? Okay.
It was
also, I think it was also. Was it Priscilla, Queen of the Desert also, or?
Yeah, I think it was used in that one. I think it may have even been used in one of the Saturday Night Fevers. It was used in a lot of movies.
Yeah.
But the most notable one in the last 20 years was that Gene Hackman, Keanu Reeves football movie where they come in as scrubs and replace the striking professional football players. And they all get in a bar fight with the striking football players and get all thrown in a jail cell, and they start singing this "I Will Survive" song, and it's kind of a bonding moment, one of those feel good type movies, and they start singing and dancing. Well, Gene Hackman's the coach. He walks in just as they're doing this and dancing, and he is livid. He is livid because they're acting so light and loose about being arrested and burying him, and it's a pivotal moment of the movie, and every time I hear that song, I actually think of that movie rather than something else.
You really knew that movie.
I watched it. It's one of those movies you can watch, and it's fun, and there is kind of a serious point to it, but it's not so serious that it's not like curing cancer or anything like that. It's not. I get it. It's not like a. A like a really serious, thoughtful movie or anything like that. You don't have to be a rocket doctor to follow it.
Well, now you got me eating popcorn, so go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about movies. We're just going to break right into a movie review show instead of doing our normal show. But anyway, hi, this is Two Queers in a Truck. It is March 9th if you're watching this while we're posting it. And of course, later on your podcast platforms and later on Facebook or your YouTube. Anyway, Christian, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Which is a broadcasting no-no meeting on the air.
Sorry.
But anyway, but
hey, Queen.
Full disclosure, we do record these shows at the end of our day on Monday nights, and so we've gone through our work day. We've gone through all of our other things that we're involved with.
Yep.
We record these after 9 o'clock. By now, it's almost close to 11 o'clock when we just start recording. So we're a little slap happy and a little crazy and a little hungry, and maybe even have a couple booze and cocktails in our system. But anyway, our first subject.
I wish.
This one's going to be. Oh, that's right. You're on a self-imposed alcohol ban.
That's right.
For Lentish.
Yeah.
Anyway, the first subject is going to be a little self-indulgent. It's called "Oh No, What Were They Thinking?" I happened to take the oath of office today for
congratulations.
A local, it's called the CRC, the Community Relations Committee.
Okay.
I think it's kind of an advisory team is what I understand to be to the city council and to the mayor. So we tackle some of the local issues and more in depth and do research for the city council. And I think a lot of the people that get nominated to it also have political aspirations, which I don't. I do not want to run for office. I see what those people go through, including my partner, Christian Cano here, that has run for office twice. All I got to do, I've got several friends that have run for office. Some have won, some have lost, some have gotten rained out. But they always look a little bit really, really, really tired right after they run, And so, to me, I am honored that I got appointed, I believe, by the office of the mayor. That's who the original notice letter. I got a notice letter in February in my true organized fashion. It sat in my UPS box for about 2 weeks, and then I finally got it. And then I didn't really look it over. I thought it was just like a thank you for being involved with the non-discrimination ordinance last year. And in true transparency, I got an email from the office that does all the paperwork and all the processing. Said, "Hey,
Gurl, will you blow them off?"
And it's, I better looking at envelopes.
That's not a good way to start.
And so, I mean, in true transparency, I'm always going to tell them myself. I rip open the thing, and there's like a manual and these rules and these bylaws and all this stuff, and I was like, oh wow, this is a thing. And so I emailed the guy that was supposed to swear me in, and they had me raise my right hand, do the whole thing, and gave me a little certificate from the city of Charlotte, and I'm
That's good,
legit.
Jay. That's wonderful.
And
That's
I
really
guess
good. I mean,
it's kind of exciting,
Mhm.
I'm not sure really what to think about it because I have the first meeting that I will be involved with is next week. It's on the 15th, so I'm kind of interested to see how it goes. I think it's more like almost like a governmental think tank, so it'll be neat. I get to see some of the policy decisions before they even get really talked about on the city council. And if I can help my community, I do believe it's a short-term post. I believe I'm replacing somebody because my term starts right after starts this month and it ends in June. And I don't know what the process is. If it's I get renominated, or is that just it?
They would.
And whatever it is, it is. It's not really. It's one of those things where I'm honored to be nominated. I'm honored to participate for however long that is. And if it's something that isn't a good fit for me or my time budget or for them, obviously I have no hurt feelings. I went 52 years without it, so obviously, but it will be.
What were they thinking?
Yeah, and the title of this section is called "What Were You Thinking?" They may figure that out. Oh, I don't know. The night of March 15th, which is next week, after they go, oh my gosh, like, why did we let this kook with the show get on this board? You're like, don't we have something else we can put her on? But anyway, I guess thanks to the mayor, our Mayor Vi Lyles, that nominated me through her office, and whomever else contributed to that, which maybe
actually maybe it may have been a city council person or someone, or the mayor. I mean, it's usually through her though, but people can recommend people. So,
and it may have been seconded by somebody, or I really don't even know how the process works on how I even got on that list, a short list. I was actually kind of surprised, because we've been fairly critical of the city council and the mayor on the show. So obviously they maybe don't watch the show as close as I thought they did.
Obviously she doesn't watch.
Yeah, hopefully she'll go back and see this episode and go back and watch some of the past episodes. Right. I may have the shortest CRC term ever. But anyway, no, it's fine. They're more than fair people, and they probably enjoy different viewpoints. But anyway, we will go to the second topic. There's enough talking about me. I rarely do talk about myself in real detail. I'm a very private person, truthfully. So the second subject is hate is expensive. There is a report that came out from the Journal of Medicine, or is sometimes called JAMA, that they did quantified cost of LGBT conversion therapy for kids and adults, and cost somewhere upwards. And they said that really the minimum that they could estimate was close to $9 billion a year, which is just an incredible cost, because it's been a discredited practice. A lot of states have outlawed it, especially for people under 18. It's a brutal process where a lot of church businesses basically are almost run like concentration camps, where they make you pray the gay away and give up being gay or being trans or whatever. It's a brutal process.
Hey, Jen, so what you're saying is that they're saying, or that article you're talking about, that they estimate that the attempts to try to pray the gay away and disenfranchise people who were born a certain way cost us about $9 billion.
A year.
Is that what you're saying? So it's a very expensive thing to do this hatred and bigotry.
Well, where the costs are calculated is between untimely deaths due to suicide, hate crimes. There's so many costs to it: lost work, lost abilities to go back through psychotherapy to repair the damage that this conversion therapy does, is becoming more and more quantifiable as medical professionals have deemed this a topic we're talking about, which really comes at a time when we're talking about these don't say gay bills and the anti-transgender executive order that Governor Abbott of Texas is now, threatening to, or actually they've already started trying to take kids away from parents that do any kind of affirming care for a trans kid, a minor. And basically they're saying it's child abuse, that you even send them to a therapist for being trans is considered against this rule, and that they actually get investigated by the CPS. So much of this is going in that same mindset, that same vein, that essentially it's a lot like Russia. I mean, Russia started doing this under Putin and bans any public discourse about LGBT. They've jailed lesbian rock bands there. There were Russian. They've murdered gay men. It's a very anti-LGBT deal, and it's been under Putin. So a lot of the same thing happened in Nazi Germany. A lot of gays were killed and rounded up, including Hitler's one of his best friends was gay, and they murdered him too. And so a lot of times when something's different, obviously they want authoritarian regimes like Republicans want to get rid of it. It's a great tool. It's a great divisive tool. It's great red meat and theater to create for their bigoted following, because you got to be a bigot to be a Republican. Obviously, if you're gonna propose things like anti-trans bills and anti-LGBT bills, which since the beginning of 2021, just in these 2 years, there's been over 431 proposed bills in 40 different states from the Republican Party that were anti-LGBT. 431 bills have been put on the docket, including multiple ones here in North Carolina. Luckily, we do have a Democrat governor, which would veto anything that would come up, and they don't have a supermajority here. And so we don't have that kind of problem. But it just seems like there's just such a push against open-mindedness, critical thinking, reading books. I mean, like Texas has banned out of the schools Fahrenheit 451, which is a science fiction book by Ray Bradbury. I mean, but it's critical government.
Do you think, Jenny, that these individual, the people who are supporting, because obviously they do it because they're trying to rile their base up, and we talked about it on the show before, but do you think they actually are against LGBTQ people? Or are they just doing it because they know they're gay people, and many of them probably have gay family members and so forth. They just don't want it. It's like Russia. I don't know if you saw the article. The British intelligence agency was able to predict the moves of Russia when they were first starting to invade Ukraine, because they were following the Grindr apps of the Russian soldiers, and they were able to determine how close they were to each other and so forth, because Russia had blocked Twitter and Facebook, but they didn't block Grindr. And the
Right.
British intelligence agency was able to, which meant the Russian soldiers were gay using Grindr. B, they forgot to turn it off, or I don't know how, what the case would be, or I don't know what other explanation is. So obviously there's gay people in the Russian military.
Well, I mean, just like in our society, there's a lot of down low gay and bi boys out there.
The Baptist Church.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any politician from South Carolina that's a Republican,
Exactly.
Lindsey Graham. But anyway, you can't ban being LGBT. You can't. You can attempt to ban it, but obviously, just like the Footloose movie, the kids are still going to dance. And it's one of those really stupid things that authoritarian people like Putin, like Trump, people that have to rule by fear, Republican Party in general, they have to create this because, one, they're typically not the smartest people in society, and they know they don't have any legitimate claim to power. They have to scare people. Putin's former KGB, so he's just taking things out of the KGB playbook, which is fear and intimidation and all that. So, it's one of those things. I mean, we see this time and time again. It's just like where we depart a little bit is no, they do know that it hurts LGBT people. They do know that every place they use this tactic, you will see violence go up against LGBT people. Most of the time in double digits. We saw that in Texas where violence against LGBT people in hate crimes went up like 17% in 2017 when they proposed the transgender bathroom bill like they did here in North Carolina. Whether it passes or not is not even that big of a deal. They just they want to make sure that people like us, there's less of us to organize against them. That's the first thing an authoritarian do is break the opposition, break them down, tie them up, make them fear for their lives, by taking their own life or getting people to commit violence against them and make it a rational thing, to make it normalized. When you make people so fearful of something, they're going to do stupid things. There's never, as George Carlin said, never underestimate the amount of stupid people that you have in your country. And 2020 and 2016 proved that. But it's just one of those things that we got to live with. We do have a commercial break coming up. It just came up that quick. And so we're going to pause temporarily and take a little break. Guess what? Take a bite. Next week we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and we are also on all your favorite audio platforms, including Spotify and many others, iHeartRadio, Apple, and a whole bunch more. So check us out on your local platforms and enjoy the show. And we are back. And so we do have but
do you think, I know you go to the next topic, but do you actually think, and I was going to ask those ladies that we had on the Coffee and Producer show, I don't think that they think that this is actually going to pass in Florida. But it did. It hasn't passed the legislature.
Yeah, right? But it's going to. It's got the votes for it.
I just can't imagine they would be stupid. I better not say this because right when I say that, never mind. I answer my own question. I was about to say they wouldn't be stupid enough to sign it because that's going to galvanize people to come up to the polls in 2022 who think it's. But
when you have no platform and no real vision for your neighbors, and you don't really care about them, you just care about power. They're a blunt instrument. It doesn't mean they're smart. It doesn't mean they're rational. You're talking about critical thinking and rational. The Republican Party has none of that left. They abandoned democracy a long time ago when they sold out to Putin. And the more we peel this back and the more we investigate, the more obvious that they picked a path, and especially Trump picked a path of authoritarianism that is unlike, republicanism has had problematic moments, anti-democracy moments since Nixon. Trump took them to a level that has Proud Boys / Proud Shirts, has attacked the Congress. We literally are seeing everything that you've ever seen in an authoritarian regime take over. We've seen every move, probably guided by Putin, because we've seen this huge Republican Party fealty to Putin, just like that. Just took one invasion of Ukraine, and all of a sudden they galvanized the whole Republican Party behind Putin. I knew the Republican Party was bad. I never knew that they would just sell out like that and sell out democracy, but clearly that is their choice.
I agree.
Our third topic is, what's a little racism? And it's, one of the odd things about the Ukrainian Russian, or the Russian invasion of the Ukraine is more like it's not even really a war, is obviously it's produced a lot of refugees, predominantly white, and how shocked and how, especially by white people, how much they feel sorry for all the refugees. And then you transpose that with the people from Yemen that have left Yemen with Saudi Arabia invasion, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, all the Central American and South American refugees that try to come through our southern border, and how there's such a pushback. Oh, well, we don't want refugees here. We don't want terrorism. We don't want crime. we don't want those, air quotes, those dirty Mexicans bringing in drugs, when the majority of the people coming over our southern border the last few years have been refugees, usually from El Salvador, Nicaragua, Panama, that have been having environmental disasters and political disasters and a lot of other things going on, mainly because of our tinkering and our fake drug war down there. But when a brown refugee comes to our border, comes to our doorsteps, or comes to Western Europe, it seems like it's a crisis, that it's somebody else's problem. But I've noticed white families mostly, and even on some private Facebook pages, I've seen all these white families, including some local ones, wanting to take in Ukrainian refugees. Now, two things. One, they don't realize there's a lot of Ukrainian refugees that are people of color that also had left other countries and came into the Ukraine, because the Ukraine was a country that gladly took in refugees. They took in a ton of them. So they may be getting Ukrainian refugees that aren't that white, which I think is going to be delicious and funny. But the other thing too is just how much low-key racism is, even for people that lean more left, that, oh, we're just also concerned about refugees. But we have refugees all the time. Like that's the boat people from Southeast Asia that came from Laos and Vietnam and all, they floated across the ocean in those rickety boats. Like it's just amazing all of a sudden how open white Americans are about refugees from the Ukraine. What's your take, Christian? I mean,
you are exactly correct, because I was talking about this last weekend, and you and I talked about this when we were talking about if Russia invaded Ukraine, how the world would be outraged, and how there may be uprising in Russia because the Ukrainians look like Russians. I mean, they're Russian. Some of them speak Russian, so they're white. It's not like they were invading a nation that's of people of color, and so there's going to be more compassion for them. But here in the United States, I thought about this weekend about how NATO, we have never, countries, Sweden, all these countries, Switzerland, we have never gotten all these countries, even Mexico this week is considering joining the, and that is really bizarre. And I thought about that this week, and I thought this would never happen if it was Afghanistan, or even Turkey, which is bordering Russia. Yeah.
Look at the two countries that we invaded.
Yeah.
In the early 21st century. And you remember all the outcry from all these nations, especially Western Europe, when we invaded Iraq and Afghanistan? No, I don't remember it either. There was no issue, and we created all kinds of destruction and stuff, and we helped create ISIS because of the power vacuum.
But you know what, Jenny?
Put over 1 million people of color, and we didn't hear a peep out of anybody. The only country that pushed back was China, and it was only because we were accumulating so much debt, and they said, you probably shouldn't accumulate so much debt.
So I have to admit, and this is what you said, because I actually thought about this weekend. I have to admit that in a very guilty way, I actually feel not guilt, but I would, and I've said this before, I would rather us as Americans unite, because we're uniting people that we haven't done in 10, 15 years. Yeah. I would rather us unite against Putin and Russia, which is why I've tried to keep it on Putin and not Russia, because it's not really the Russian people, it's Putin,
right?
Putin, than each other. And so it's like one of these things that, this is so racist, because we wouldn't unite against Afghanistan or even Syria or Mexico or El Salvador or even Central American countries, or even Haiti. We wouldn't unite to help Haiti, but we are uniting.
Hell, we didn't even help Puerto Rico after the
exactly. So it is this.
We repaved Houston with gold. And fixed them up in I think 8 weeks. We got most of the hurricane damage fixed in Houston. Puerto Rico is still, I think like half the island still doesn't even have power or some crazy thing like that. I mean, I remember reading in 2021 about Puerto Rico as the forgotten territory, and because we know that Puerto Rico's predominantly an American territory that is mostly people of color. It is not a air quotes a Texas or a New Hampshire or Washington State, and that we identify as an American. Well, it's not an American state; it's a territory, and also predominantly Spanish is spoken there versus English here, and we just don't consider them Americans, or at least Trump didn't.
Which is one of the reasons why in the white community here, and also in the Latinx community as well, we treat Puerto Ricans, even though they are American, we treat them less than we do Cubans. And the reason is because there are so many more Afro-Latinos in Puerto Rico than there are in Cuba. The refugees that came from Cuba tend to be more of the elite class that came over, and they tend to be more whiter, lighter. And the Afro-Latinos that came over with the in the 50s and 60s were more Afro-Latinos. They're more darker Puerto Ricans, and it seems like there is this. I don't know.
But there was also a very political, a very political ramification, because Cuba being a communist, socialist nation, it was supported by the Soviet Union for so long that you had that anti-communist feeling. And whereas Puerto Rico, we took that from Spain in 1898 in the Spanish-American War. Nobody currently living was alive at that time, so you don't have any Spanish-American war veterans walking around going, well, it's part of America too. We fought for that. Those people have been long since dead. So there is a, like, of course, we've refused to teach history in the history books now because we don't want them to learn about homosexuals or slavery. But it's
because it'll make you gay or a slave if you talk about it. So.
I mean, you don't want to catch the gabies.
Exactly.
But anyway, our fourth topic, of course, is the a-hole of the week. I picked a new a-hole because I saw this statistic.
Oh my! Let me clutch my pearls. Oh my!
So we picked Exxon as the asshole of the week. Their profits rose in 2021 by 57%, or otherwise known as $23 billion extra on top of the profits they made before during a pandemic, during global turmoil. Poor old Exxon made an extra $23 billion.
Yeah.
We may have to lower our heads for a moment of silence for Exxon. I don't know how they're going to make it. I may have to send them some coupons or some thoughts and prayers. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to budget all those fancy trips and buying all those senators.
Yeah.
But one of the number one polluters on the planet, Exxon, actually profited off the pandemic.
So that's it's interesting because living in Dallas as long as I did, I will not stop at an Exxon station, and I don't think I have in probably since the early 90s. And I have, because there was a lot of things with at that time they were contributing to anti-gay legislation and all that kind of stuff, and so the gay community was boycotting Exxon for a long time. And so I haven't done that. But one of the things that I know that people who are complaining about the rising gas prices and stuff, well, my understanding is Biden has said, and his press secretary said, that there are 9,000 leases that American oil companies have not drilled in. And if they really wanted to lower the price of oil, they could drill those. They just don't want more oil because they like the prices going up. And so I don't know what our solution is to that, because we can release as many reserves as we want to. There's just not enough reserves to release to lower the prices. They need to start drilling more. But why would you drill more if you're going to get $5? What it's got like $3 something, almost $4 a gallon here in North Carolina, the national average or whatever. So why would you do it if you can keep the prices going up?
And I still laugh because you'll go to Starbucks and get the fancy mocha,
Exactly.
double frappuccino, F-boy drink, and spend $8 on a friggin' 6 ounces of coffee. Just friggin' coffee.
Yeah.
And you'll spend $8 on that, $10 on a craft beer, one beer at a bar, at a brewery here locally. We're full of breweries here.
Yeah.
If you've never been to Charlotte, North Carolina, but you'll complain that your gas went from $3.40 to $3, and I think it's 86 cents at the Harris Teeter gas pumps. So it's going up 40 cents or so in North Carolina, maybe 50 cents a gallon. So,
but you don't.
Gallons in, you're going to spend $5 more or about half the price of the drink that you drink.
So, Jen, do you think
10 of those a day?
Yeah, Jen, do you think there's going to be? I have this feeling. Do you think there's going to be not backlash, but there's going to be? I was watching the local news here today, and they were talking about the gas prices going up. And one of the ladies they interviewed said they were asking people, at what level will you stop buying the gas? And one lady said, I'll pay what I need to, but if it gets up to $6, I will start taking public transportation. And
Never
so
happens.
I do think that there's a level that people get to. Like, for an example, I already plan my trips. I know you have to drive with the things that you do, but I don't go anywhere unless I know I'm stopping this place, this place, this place, this place. You know what I mean? But then again, we'll pull a damn trailer in a big truck.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure you don't pull that trailer, that RV of yours, with a hybrid.
It is you
Especially
have a good point.
All the way to Key West.
You good point.
You literally are burning an oil field like they did in Kuwait in 1990.
That's true.
Like I find and especially I just find it deliciously ironic.
Yes.
That I'm not going to tell people what you drive, but they have pretty nice vehicles, and they have an RV. During camping season, they go every weekend to the mountains or the coast or whatever. And then they spend a month or so in the summer in Key West, which is not around the corner. But but you're not unusual for an American. That Americans will go, well, I'll just stop buying gas. Well, I know that for a fact in 2000,
we want other people to stop doing it.
yeah, we want those other people to do it. But the reality is, we've been trying to push mass transit in big cities for a long time. Mass transit ridership never goes up because the people that are in that, what I call the car class, that can afford an automobile and the insurance and all that, they're not going to give up anything.
Yeah.
They just don't. It didn't happen in 2007 or 2008 when it was over. It was north of $5 a gallon, and sometimes all up to $6 in California and some of the other more expensive states. Because we all know that we pay less than most people do around the world, especially in Western countries.
So it's still cheap for us, I guess, right?
We still pay a lot less than most people do in Western Europe, even in Canada, and so we're just spoiled. We're spoiled from we're used to that American exceptionalism, and I posted this on Facebook a few months ago when the gas prices spiked a little bit because of other reasons besides the Ukrainian thing, and I posted and said, well, you guys will drink an $8 beer or a $10 latte and not even think twice about it, maybe even buy a second one, but gas goes up 10 cents and y'all crap the bed. And people got mad at me. They got mad at me for saying that, and I'm like, but it's the truth. The truth hurts, and it draws out the a-holes of the week. But anyway, this is our fourth segment, so we do take a commercial break right here, and we'll be right back.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching us on Two Queers in a Truck. Don't forget, you can watch us anytime at your leisure on our video podcast platforms like Facebook and YouTube, but you can also listen to us either this show or any of our past shows on our audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and all of the other ones. So once again, thank you for watching Two Queers in a Truck. I hope you enjoy our show.
And we are back. This is Two Queers in a Truck. And the number 5 thing is something we talked about a little bit earlier on our educational show, and talking to local parents, or not local parents, but parents down in Florida about organization. This has got a similar connection. I call it the rainbow connection, is profits over kids. And we're seeing it down in Florida where Disney, which always does all the rainbow stuff during June, and Netflix and everybody up here, where the banking capital of the East Coast, we start doing all the rainbow stuff at all the big banks. But when it comes to LGBT legislation, and especially hate bills like Don't Say Gay or the bathroom bills, a lot of these corporations disappear, including Disney has been noticeably absent from the Don't Say Gay thing. And including, they have a lot of families that work for Disney in Florida that are LGBT. Many of the employees have LGBT kids. It's known when you work for them, it's a fairly accommodating and a safe environment. Yet they're not fighting for their employees. They're not fighting for their LGBT family at all. And considering the power they have in Florida, and so many other companies, Netflix has been noticeably quiet, even though they shoot a lot of films in Florida. The list goes on and on. It's not just Disney, but Disney was one of the more notable ones. So much so that the people trying to fight the Don't Say Gay bill are asking them, why aren't you jumping in? Why are you being so quiet? Why are you looking the other way? And which is going to turn into a just disaster for LGBT children that live in the state of Florida. Very similar to the same idea of banning books that we've seen in several Republican-held states. We're seeing the attacks on the school districts that we just talked about the last hour.
I don't know, Jenny.
It's an all-out assault, it seems like, on anything that isn't white, conservative, and Christian. It's just like anything that's even slight of their variation of their truth is just getting shot at, you know.
I almost think, and I don't know this, and it's just my thinking, but I almost think that, like in Texas and also but see, you would have a better grasp because you were there during the bathroom stuff in Texas, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you spoke of stuff. So I'm wondering in Florida and also in Texas as well, if I'm going to use this term, the gay mafia. You know, it's kind of a joke on Will and Grace. There's this gay mafia out there. You know, they're like the elite class, the gay mafia. They are. Yes. The ones that control the gay agenda. That they in Florida and in Texas, that they want these bills to get people so angry. And they're waiting right until the last moment to come up and attack it so that way it can be defeated. Do you think that is a possibility, that is the strategy, is to get people, because it is kind of, when I heard about this, and I know you posted a lot about this, that was my first question was, I can't believe this has gotten this far, because you would think surely, you know, but
typically just the publicity from the fight itself. We saw that here,
sure,
and the fallout in North Carolina with the first really nationally known bathroom bill. It seemed like it set off the firestorm in 2016, and it got the Republican governor fired, and the guy that wrote it, Bathroom Dan. And then we saw in Texas, we saw in 2017 that the Senate passed it there, but then it stalled in the House because the Speaker of the House refused to take up. He didn't want to be a back. He didn't want to do it. Also happened to have a transgender nephew, and was a Republican, but he was a common sense Republican from San Antonio that just said, I don't want transgender kids and people's blood on my hands and not on my watch, and had the power that even the Republican members of that Texas House, if he doesn't bring it out of committee, we're not going to encourage it. We want to leave it alone. Like it was, and then the next Speaker of the House in 2019 said it's not coming up. It's the issue's been decided. But obviously in 2022, Governor Abbott's doing executive orders and things of that nature. But I also think both with Abbott and with DeSantis, they a lot of this stuff is red meat for their base, creates a lot of organization. And then most of all, they're both going to be in tight races for their re-election. DeSantis only won by about 47,000 votes. He's probably killed over 40,000 Republicans. So, like there might be a give or take on that. Abbott, is in the fight of his life. He's going to be going up against Beto, which has been a phenomenal organizer, barely lost to Ted Cruz before Ted Cruz went to Cancun. And the Democrats have been putting an all-out organization and a push for registration of voters there in Texas. So we're definitely seeing a more progressive shift in Texas. And I think you're going to see it in Florida too. I think they're going to get the public behind them and get it energized. I believe, just like here in North Carolina, it backfired really bad. Now, I think the gay mafia and the gay elite are fighting it, but I think they also realize that the Republicans do have the votes in Florida to pass this, and that there is a will to pass this, and that DeSantis is so powerful in that Republican Party. I do believe, just like he's kind of the Trump of Florida, I do believe a lot of Republicans are not going to push back on him, unlike the Texas version. And I think the outcome is going to be more like here in North Carolina. I think it's going to pass, but it may be one of those things where the damage from it is going to backfire. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I guess that's kind of what I'm saying, is that I'm wondering if, I'm reading. I sent you that link, but I'm reading the Disney CEO, what he said, and basically what he says is, which is pretty stupid, but I didn't realize how stupid it was. But he said, I do not want. He said, instead they are all, as we have seen time and time again, corporate statements do very little to change outcomes or minds. Instead, they are often weaponized by one side or the other to further divide or inflame. I do not want to make that mistake. With the lack of a statement of support, I will share he said they're going to strive for more. So basically what he's saying is, we want equality, but we know that we have very little to do with politics, which is baloney.
Basically,
and he's getting a lot of yes. And so, and to the credit of the, I believe it's the PFLAG National Committee, they said that the Disney CEO is feeding right into the hands of the right wing's people, because they want to make this political, and it's not a political issue; it's a human rights issue.
Yeah.
And the right wing wants to make it political, because if you look at it as a human right issue, this is wrong. But if you look at it as a political issue, then you're like, oh, it's all political.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I don't know if that makes sense, but that makes what I'm reading, what they're saying is that the right wing people, like in Texas and stuff, they want us to make, because those people who are maybe on the don't really understand what's going on. If you tell them, oh, it's just political, which is why one of the reasons why when COVID first started, I remember the Republican Party was saying masks are political, it's a political. It was a health issue, but they turned it into political, and then you couldn't help it. It just became a political issue. So it was to their advantage to make it political rather than health, because if it was a health issue, then people go, well, that's a no-brainer. So I don't know. This is.
Well, I think it was a no-brainer for anybody that has any sense.
Yeah.
It just like in Florida, of course, Disney is taking the road of a coward, taking the road, whether they like it or not, they're on the front lines of this. And if you operate a large business in a state that is making a really bad policy decision and you don't jump in, don't worry, history will judge you. We saw good people look the other way in Germany in 1936, and we all saw how that turned out. But our last subject is the Tin Fowl Hat Award winner for this week. And of course, I picked the trucker protests for a lot of reasons. One, because I think this invasion of the Ukraine has really revealed a lot more about America. And you look at, we have these trucker protests in Canada and the United States, and dudes sitting in portable hot tubs, and people getting DoorDash food delivered to them, and people getting lost, and 10 or 12 trucks even showing up in an American one. I mean, it's not even enough to fill up a Walmart parking lot. And then you look at the protests in Russia, like in St. Petersburg and these places, and there's hundreds of thousands of people saying, we don't want you to do this, Putin. You're making Russia look bad. You're hurting people. You're hurting our loved ones that live in the Ukraine. We used to be one country under the Soviet Union. We have people on both sides of this. We have soldiers, Russian soldiers walking back home. Some are just saying, screw it. They're dropping their guns and just going home. Like some are starving to death. It's not a good look. And then we have truckers that don't want to take the LO ouchie, that sound like a bunch of whiny 3-year-olds. And that may be an 3-year-olds.
But this is what, the fun, a funny part about the gas prices. We were talking about gas prices. One of your things was that one of the reasons why the truckers aren't doing what they said they were going to do was because it cost them so much money in diesel fuel that just to go one time around the Beltway is like $200 and something of fuel, and a lot of them aren't being reimbursed, and so they're like, no, we're just going to sit at this. We're going to sit at the Speedway in Maryland, and why am I going to wait? And they were not able to really slow traffic down because it's really hard to drive on that Beltway. You literally go in a circle. It's the most, and there's like 6 lanes. It's kind of scary. There's only
like 10 of them. There's only like 10 of them. I mean,
they say that there's like a mile's worth of them or whatever. But they're having. I was following someone on Twitter. I can't remember what it was, and they're keeping track of every time they go out there, and they're saying Beltway 3, Convoy 0. And so it is kind of turned into kind of a humorous, and there's only a couple of people. They make it sound like there's lots of people. There's a couple of people on bridges cheering them on, but quite honestly, people aren't worried about them anymore. They're focused on the war. They're focused on this bathroom, this don't stay gay thing, on the Texas thing. So I don't feel sorry for them because a lot of them traveled a long way for like,
Well, and you think about all the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of truck drivers in the United States, and the Teamsters Union, and all these amazing labor forces that make America go, that our trucking system is one of the most powerful and logistically sophisticated systems in the world. It's how, we move goods from one coast to another and every stop in between. And over 90% of American truck drivers, I think it's like 92 or 93%, are all vaccinated, because most of the major trucking companies, and I believe the truck driving unions, are all require vaccination because it's the right thing to do. Plus, it's really hard to drive a truck if you had COVID or long COVID and you were to have neurological problems, because they have to keep their health to a certain level. Otherwise, you can't sit there and drive a truck for however many hours a day. And so it's just it's basically the outliers and the goofballs.
Yeah.
And
Hey, I want to say something real quickly about the Proud Boys. I didn't want to say it in front of the ladies on our other show because our humor sometimes can be, maybe not taken understanding. Every time I think of the Proud Boys, I think of like this down low gay group.
Yes.
No. I mean, every time I think of like, the Proud Boys. I mean, first of all, anyone who's over 25 years old who still calls himself a boy is kind of gay. That's a gay, that's kind of,
the daddy boy culture.
Exactly. Yeah. There's
daddies.
Exactly.
There's a lot of gay male vernacular in the Proud Boys for being this conservative group, which we all know most conservatives are a little bit more sexual variant than they'd like to admit. Or they like to dress up in frilly dresses and look pretty. But I've met some Proud Boys at different events, and some young Republicans, they were saying, we're Proud Boys. but they also were very flirty with me. And in fact, they were the most flirty people with me at the Young Republican meeting.
And there's nothing. No, we have to preface it with there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what they want to do, I understand that. But at the same time, we're building these Proud Boys up like they're like Black Panthers or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. They're just, many of them are what we would call bears in the gay community. Right? I mean,
I think they're more like power bottoms, mostly power bottoms. I mean, this is 2 Queers in a Truck. So
no. What I mean, bears, as far as many of them are kind of plump, right? Are they?
Some of them are pretty fit. Like the 2 guys I met were pretty good.
But they must be the exceptions because all the ones that I see, like on the at these events, and I see them, they're all like guys with guts.
Yeah, I mean, there's some. I mean, I think it's within the group. I mean, I think it depends on the age of the Proud Boy, but I mean, some are Proud Boys with little boilers there and stuff like that. But who doesn't like a big old cuddly bear? But
that's right.
But it's not lost on the gay community.
Yes,
that it's ironic that they keep picking names and imagery that's very LGBT. Very queer, but my message is, and in case any of them are in our audience, you do listen to us. Hey, the penis pond water is plenty warm. Come on in, get on your Speedo, your chaps, your glitter.
Yeah, exactly.
Just be proud. Come out to Pride. Get you some glitter beard going. Whatever. There's plenty of room at the table, and I know. There's a lot of gay Democrats that love to meet you and reach across the aisle in more ways than one. So just come on out of the closet and show your pride. But there's definitely you couldn't be 100% straight
and be a Proud Boy. Exactly.
There is no way. It's just some of their imagery, some of their their mustache twirls, like their founder that's this really fit. Who's actually, I think he's Latinx, and he's got that very gay porn mustache. Yeah, and he's been to a few gay clubs. Yeah, there's no way.
It is. There's this homoerotic thing about these. It's kind of like when you and I joke about. It's like you and I joke about the boys going to the hunting lodge.
Yes. Just like Brokeback Mountain,
exactly.
The wife figures out that obviously his best friend lover, which he looks through the fishing kit and everything still has tags on it. It's never you tell. There's no chum on it. There's it's not a working fishing kit. It's a show kit. Many of these products, it's amazing how it's not even a co-ed thing. That it's all male. Yeah.
It's all
man club. And how they are so attracted to
whatever.
And bigger the gun, the better. And,
that's right.
They're polishing each other's rifles, and there's just I think it's great. I think it's the first step to get conservatives or Republicans just to own their gayness.
Yes.
I think the majority of the males in the Republican Party are either bisexual or gay themselves.
I agree.
And instead of just projecting all this hate, just come on in. There's plenty of room for the Republican gays. There really is. I mean, there's a ton of them. There is. Not even the ones that's out of the closet, but there's a ton of big closet ones.
Yeah, but you know what, Jenny? If they do pass this, what looks like now, you are correct that they're expected to pass it this week, that Don't Say Gay bill. And the governor obviously is going to sign it. If they do pass it, this really hurts conservative families and religious families. Quite honestly, it hurts them more than it does educated progressive families because they have the ability to talk to their children and so forth. The other ones, their kids are going to suffer more than progressive families.
But it was just like here in 2016 in North Carolina when they passed that disastrous anti-trans bathroom bill. And it really isn't about the trans community or the gay male community or LGBT kids or anything like that. The real issue is targeting a community that has a tough time defending itself.
Yes.
Small community, it's a small part of the American population that they see as low-hanging fruit.
Yes.
And for them, it's an easy target that in their minds is not a loss. If there's more violence against LGBT kids, so be it. They shouldn't be gay type attitude.
Yeah.
You are correct. It is going to hurt. Conservative parents are going to get their own kids hurt because there's going to be a percentage. I don't care how much you go to church or anything else. I came from a churchy, conservative, military family.
Exactly.
And look at me.
Well,
I look like a walking rainbow flag. Okay. I wear rainbow overalls to an RNC protest. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I got glossed with the name The Trans Testicle by Dirty Santa. And you know, that's
how would you hey Jenny, I know we're out of time, but how would you in a perfect world, let's say you and I were living in Florida. Okay. In a perfect world, how would you have defeated this bill?
I mean, I would have done it a lot like we organized in Texas. I would have I'll tell you the things that Texas Equality did and that the HRC did is they fought it hard in the Senate and they built it up as such a senseless, non-effective, and economically disastrous thing. By the time of the Senate hearing, even though we knew it was going to pass the Senate, we knew that it had the votes. What it did do was wake up the more practical side of the Republican Party in the House, which shut it down.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, Chris, there's nothing to do about Abbott's executive order and ordering the Child Protective Services to act on his executive order, because that was something that didn't go through the legislation. And the same way that this, I think they needed to have been more proactive. They've known about this for a while. I think they needed to reduce it down to going, well, look what SB2 did to North Carolina. That cost them over $1 billion in business. Yeah. And we live off tourism. If travel and tourism shuts down here, what are we going to do? Because it's going to be more than $1 billion. You know, it could be devastating, which is surprising why Disney took the stance they did. And so the only thing I can say is that in traditional southern states, which Florida is not really a traditional southern state like North Carolina, Texas.
Exactly. Yeah.
I will say the organization in our states is more effective because we're used to getting railroaded by conservatives, so we fight just as hard as they do. Florida, I don't believe a lot of the progressives there fight as hard. That's why that's why you see gubernatorial races so close. Is I think
that's why I'm so surprised. Well, okay, but that's why I'm so surprised. And what I would have done, even though it's me, I would have just said, okay, let's pass it, and not put up a fight.
Yeah,
because then what would have happened was they would have gone, oh, hold on a second.
Yeah,
there must be something wrong with this bill.
Well, I mean, there is the idea that fighting it is not going to change anything because no teachers are going to go by it. No school, all school districts said, well, we're not gonna comply. Just like prosecutorial attorneys in all the big cities of Texas said, you can pass all the executive orders you want. But we're not prosecuting any family.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying.
Taking it to a doctor.
I wonder if they could have fought it that way, or even if Texas can fight it that way. If they can say, you know what, we're not going to fight this. We're going to go along with it. We want to make it tougher. We also want to make it illegal for you to talk about religion in school.
Yeah, and
just fight fire with fire.
And I think what you're going to see is a state like California that overwhelmingly the Democratic Party controls the legislature and the government in the executive branch, is that we're going to see more of these vigilante 800 numbers and these things where, California is going to pass a bill that's going to say, well, if you talk about Christianity in any public schools in any state, we're going to be able to sue you if you have an illegal firearm. We're going to shut we're going to sue the firearm companies.
Mm-hmm.
What's probably going to happen, and unfortunately, we don't have the right federal Supreme Court right now.
To override it. Yeah.
I think we're pretty close to where we're going to have to start kicking in term limits for federal judges. I think we're pretty close to seeing term limits for our federal Congress, our national Congress.
Mm-hmm.
I think voting reform and most of all, politician reform.
Yeah.
I think in the next 10 years, we're probably going to have to pass a federal law that limits all politicians to one term.
Yeah.
And to where we don't see one party have the governorship for 30 years.
Yeah.
We don't see these deadlocks. Is that we need younger, newer people into these things and turning and burning. And we even cities, large cities where they have mayors for 20 and 30 years.
Yeah.
And then the city seems to start to die. We saw this with New York City. Is that, I think Robert Williams said it in one of his political movies that, politicians are like diapers.
Yeah.
Need to change them often. And then we saw this even with Governor Cuomo in New York. He was probably in office too long, got comfortable, started sexually harassing people because he thought he was untouchable. And we all found out not only did he cost himself his job, he also cost his brother a job, a high-profile CNN job. And at the end, our country typically will do the right thing. It just sometimes takes a lot of pain and suffering until we get around to doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But we are out of time, and we covered a lot of ground.
How time flies.
I know. It was just, especially when you're having fun.
Exactly.
But we do try to keep this well under an hour. And so till next week, we are going to be signing out. And
you gonna dance us out?
I got to dance us out. And we'll head on out.
Bye, Queen.
Bye, Queen. Hey, guys, thanks for watching and tuning in. We appreciate y'all watching every week and being loyal viewers. And we'll see you soon.
Bye, Queen.
Bye, Queen. Hello, everybody. We got Two Squares and Trucks and another episode in the can. We appreciate y'all watching and tuning in every week. Hope that you tune in to our podcast, both with Coffee and Pandosi and Two Squares and a Truck. We talked about all kinds of things this week, from white supremacy to Joe Biden calling somebody a son of a bitch to a whole bunch more. Thanks for tuning in, and y'all be safe.
Bye, boo-boo.
Bye.